Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really interesting health philosophy called God's Plan. It's a framework that suggests you can live a life free from disease, but only if you follow what it calls 8 natural laws found in the Bible. So let's get into it and see what it's all about.
So the entire foundation for this way of thinking really hinges on this one verse from Exodus. It's presented as a powerful, divine promise that God's original design for all of us was a life totally and completely free from any kind of disease.
And that, right away, brings up a huge question, If there's this promise of perfect health out there, why are so many people sick? The framework presents this as a kind of divine paradox that needs to be solved.
To get to the bottom of this paradox, the framework starts by trying to figure out what these diseases of the Egyptians actually were. The argument here is that we're not talking about some ancient forgotten plagues, but illnesses we're all very familiar with today.
You can see right here how the framework makes these direct connections. For example, the ancient word botch is interpreted as what we'd call tumors or ulcers. Scab is connected to things like psoriasis or eczema. And even sorrow of mind is seen as depression and worry. So the idea is, these are the exact same health problems we're dealing with right now.
And then, to build on that, the framework points to this verse from Proverbs to make a really critical point. Disease isn't random. There's always a cause. And that just makes you wonder even more, right? If there's a promise of health, and sickness isn't just bad luck, then why is it still happening? So, how does this system solve the puzzle? Well, the answer it gives is this framework called God's Plan. And the whole idea is about getting back to an original, divine design for our health.
The core idea is kind of like this. Just as there are spiritual laws to live by, like the 10 Commandments, there are also physical, natural laws that our bodies are meant to follow. The solution, according to this perspective, is to rediscover those physical laws and start living by them.
And to make these physical laws easy to remember, they're all packaged into this single, memorable acronym, God's Plan. This is basically presented as the roadmap to get back to that promised state of health from the very beginning.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's break down exactly what each letter in this GOSPLAN acronym stands for. First up, we have G for godly trust. The framework connects this directly with finding perfect peace. And get this, it makes this huge claim that stress, the opposite of this trust, is responsible for a whopping 75% of all disease. Why? Because it argues stress makes the body more acidic and just tanks your immune system.
Next are O for open air, fresh air, deep breathing, and D for daily exercise. The prescription here is 30 minutes every day. And the reasoning given is that this is how you pump your lymphatic fluid and sweat out toxins.
Now this is where it gets really specific. S is for sunshine, and it even recommends getting that some in the morning and evening for vitamin D. And P is for plenty of rest, but we're not just talking about 8 hours of sleep. It also calls for a weekly Sabbath for what it calls genetic repair, tying physical rest directly to a biblical command. Then we've got L for lots of water, with a big emphasis on when to drink it. And A for always have temperance, and this one's a biggie. Temperance here basically means self-control in everything you do, presenting it as a cornerstone for a healthy life.
And that brings us to the final letter, N for nutrition, and this is really positioned as the heart of the whole system. The central claim here is, well, it's incredibly bold. It states there is only one source of disease, and that is impure blood, which the framework says is just acidic blood.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Look at this split they create. On one side, you have things that are said to create alkaline or pure blood, leafy greens, fruits, the usual suspects. But look closer. It also includes acts of kindness and compassion. Then on the other side, you have the causes of acidic, impure blood, processed sugar, meat, but also anger, stress, and even gossip. It's this all-encompassing view where your emotions and your actions are said to be literally changing your body's chemistry.
So, to make all of this more practical, the framework also lays out a list of definite no-nos, what it calls health-destroying habits that you have to avoid.
So here are some of those key behaviors. First off, no snacking between meals, just regular meals 5 to 6 hours apart. Also, no hasty eating. You're supposed to eat slowly and cheerfully. No overeating, and this one's pretty specific. It warns against drinking water with your meals, especially cold water, because it supposedly arrests digestion. Finally, it advises against rich, spicy foods, saying they wear out your digestive system.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's really a message of empowerment and control. The argument is that our bodies have this amazing innate ability to heal. We just have to give them the right conditions.
Basically, it's saying that your health is in your hands. All you have to do is stop the bad stuff and follow these 8 laws.
And that brings us to the end of this explainer. It's a pretty compelling model that ties health directly to obeying a set of laws, both spiritual and physical. And it leaves you with a big question to think about, doesn't it? If health is a direct result of following the rules, what does that suggest about our own personal responsibility? And what does it mean for the well-being of those who do get sick? Thanks for joining us.